Welcome to the 100-Yard Dash Football Podcast presented by the Chiefs Focus Network, where you talks about the NFL from end zone to end zone and all 100 yards in between. Without further ado, here's you.
What up, though? This is the 100-Yard Dash Football Podcast, where I am talking about the NFL from end zone to end zone and all 100 yards in between. I'm here with Mo again, my partner, my bro. What it do, man?
What's up with it, man? Glad to be back, man. Love coming on the show. Love listening to the show when I'm not on. So I'm happy to be back, man.
Yeah, man. I love having you on. You know what you be talking about. You
Yes,
know what you be talking about. I got kids around. And so it is what it is. But shoot, week nine just passed. And well, hold on. This is week 9, right? Yeah, it's week 9.
Yeah, week 9. We heading into week 10. Yes, sir.
Week 10. So technically, week 8 is the mid part of the season. Technically. But and we were supposed to do a show then, but my kid got sick. So we were not able to do it, but I definitely want to do it today. Where we look at the teams that are below 500, and believe it or not, to anybody that might be listening that does not know it, one of these teams might not be 500 and still make the playoffs, because we got a whole division that just don't look good at all. We'll talk about it in a second, but let's talk about week 9's games as I try to pull up my notes here. I don't even know why I didn't have that up already, but hold on. Ooh, there we go. As I look at the week 9 for the Baltimore, nope, that's not as. Hold on.
Yeah, the Eagles kicked off the week. Eagles kicked off week 9 last Thursday versus the Texans.
Yes, versus the Texans. Now, with that being said, there was no way the Houston Texans were winning that game.
Right, absolutely.
What you think about it?
I think I thought it was an okay game. I think the quick turnaround. I think that explains the reason why a lot of Thursday night games are bad. Is because you basically going from preparing for a full week of practice, playing a Sunday game, and then you had to turn right back around less than 3 days later and play another game. I think it's even worse for the road team because you probably only get a couple days of walkthrough on top of you having to get treatment and team meets, and you gotta, get on a plane and go fly to wherever that next game is, especially if it's not like a division game or a game that's in close proximity. And so,
right.
And then if you're playing an opponent like the Eagles was playing, it's sometimes hard to get up for that opponent. That team's 1-5. That was 1-5-1 at the time, and it might take a little while to get things started. But I think that overall it ended up being a great game. I think that the Texans showed a lot of fight. They played very, very hard, and they got a good running game, and you still got a good defensive mastermind and Lovie Smith. But I think it ended up being a really good game, albeit everything considered.
I think I want to say the game that passed Lovey by, but I don't want to say that because I don't believe it. But it seems like it has. I just don't think the Houston Texans have enough talent on the team.
Yeah, because he ran that cover 2, that Tampa 2 that he's been known for since he was on Tampa Bay staff with Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
And he didn't bring that many pressures. He did bring some delayed blitzes in that game. And their offense did look revolutionary. I think they probably would have been even more competitive had Brandon Cooks played. He was, disgruntled about not being traded, and he didn't play. And they had another injury with Nico Collins in that game as well. But it was a very competitive game. But I agree with you on that from that sentiment. But yeah, they just lack a lot. They got a lot of areas where they need talent at skill position, offensive line, pass rush. They just need some more talent. But they do have 20 picks coming up in the next two drafts, 10 next year, 10 the year after that. So they are,
Not
and they finally got rid finally got rid of Esterby out of there. So now they might be in good hands to make some improvements.
Not only that, but they got cap space coming up. They got like $100 million in cap space, and so
Exactly.
it's time to reload and figure it out. Because boy, they got some work to do. But anyway, Philly beats Houston. We all know what happened. It was so long ago, so I don't really want to belabor that. But I do want to congratulate your boys on being undefeated. And I do
Yeah,
gotta
I didn't
ask.
know.
Yeah, man, I gotta ask you the question though. Look, I have to ask it because I remember when the Chiefs went 10-0 to start the season back in 2003, and we put so much into being undefeated at the time, and it was to the point I think we lost 3 games that season.
Yeah, I
But
think y'all had one like 2013 too, wasn't it? It wasn't that
yeah,
the wild card season with the Colts.
it was 13.
13, 14.
I want to say 14, but yeah, I know
Yeah,
what
one of
you.
that season.
But it's like you put so much into being undefeated because it's fun being undefeated. It's great being undefeated, and if you can pull it off, pull it off. But when you look at the division, that the Eagles are in, it's like the Cowboys are nipping on heels, and even though y'all undefeated, if you do end up losing the game, you got to worry about making sure making sure that it's not a division game. There's so many things that has to go on that you got to make sure of to make sure that you capitalize on being undefeated, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think these guys really are like when it's a lot of coaches speak. Jalen, comes from the school of Nick Saban, not only
Yeah.
physically but mentally as well, metaphorically as well. Is that you take it one game at a time because I think the difference between this and say the Cardinals last year or the
Yeah.
2020 Steelers that were 11-0 is that this is a tough division, and I think that's motivating factor to keep winning because, like you said, the Cowboys are right there, 2.5 games back at 6-2. The Giants are right there, 2.5 games back at 6-2 as well. The Eagles got to play the Giants twice. Still, they got to play the Cowboys on Christmas Eve.
Real talk.
So yeah, the motivating factor of you can't worry about going undefeated because, like you said, not only is there a number one seed still left to be had, but then there's also the NFC East, which is up until the Commandos lost to the Vikings yesterday, every team in that division was at least 500 or better. Um, so that's a motivating factor to continue winning. And I think those guys have had enough guys, whether it's some of the holdovers left over from the Super Bowl team, the Kelseys, the Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Grahams of the world. But you also got young, talented guys that, even though it's a completely different game, they've done it on the collegiate level as well. Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean with Georgia, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts with Alabama, who had experience being undefeated and playing at the highest
Oh,
level. So
okay, bro. We know that you loaded up with talent.
exactly. So those guys are mentally prepared to take on the haul of a possibility of an undefeated season. But I don't think those guys are looking that far, and I think those guys are just, as of right now, trying to do it one game at a time. Now, as it get closer, now the pressure will mount because we've heard guys like guys on that '07 Patriots team, or like you said, guys from that Chiefs team, or even guys from I know Nikovic is on ESPN. They went undefeated in 2015 and lost in the AFC Championship game. Says that as the season goes on, it does become somewhat of a distraction. So, but I think those guys are mentally prepared for it when that time comes as it get closer.
I like the fact that you brought up that the collegiate level, like being on those collegiate teams, matters because it does. It does. I thought about it, but I always compare it to the professional teams because we see a lot of them that go undefeated end up kind of crap in the bed at some point.
Yeah, just be honest. Some of them guys that be undefeated in the league, it's not no disrespect to them, to their acumen. They be on some teams that ain't never won anything. You know what I'm saying? So how would they know how to handle that? Like no disrespect to Ben Roethlisberger, but like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't have to worry about going undefeated at Miami of Ohio in the in the MAC conference. You know what I'm saying? So
shots fired, shots fired. All right, we gonna keep it moving, man, because I know you got stuff to do. It's all whatever. But as we move on, the Buffalo Bills get beat by the New York Jets 20-17. Takes the Bills to 6-2, takes the Jets to 6-3. Look, man, I don't, how can I say this? That's a division team, obviously, but the Bills were rolling for a long time, and they lost that one game, and then they lose this
Dolphins.
Yeah, and it just was it was a wonky looking game. That's the best word I can come up with. Wonky looking game for the whole thing. The kicker with the stumble at the kickoff, and then Josh Allen getting the ball at like the 40, like right at almost in their territory, and then throwing that interception where he's throwing to the tight end Dawson Knox, and what's his face just stepped in the way and took it, and I'm like, bro, what was he looking at? To me, it felt like I know Josh Allen was keyed in, I get it, but to me, it felt like he was just sitting right there in your face. He wasn't even hiding, but it was a weird game. But the Jets find a way to win against a division rival.
Yep. 3 things I take away from this game. 1, humble but not so humble brag. If you go back to the season preview that I was on, me and you talked about it, and I said, hey, the Jets going to have a better record than what people think they are. It might start off sluggish, but that draft was just too good, and they've hit on every guy, like the guy that you mentioned, Sauce Gardner with the pick, Jermaine Johnson. Yeah, Breece Hall before he was injured. He was balling before he got out for the season. Garrett Wilson has been a revelation at receiver, and even from a past draft, we got to start talking about Quentin Williams in this defensive person of the year conversation, because he's been a record all season.
Man, I wanted Quentin Williams, like that whole defensive draft class. Well, not the whole one, but those first rounders that went, all of them beats Josh Allen, Quentin Williams. There's a couple others that's escaping my mind, but I want to say it's 2017 to 2018 draft class, full of those first 5 defensive linemen. Whoo, man, I wanted some of them dudes for the Chiefs, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but the second thing I take away from it is that you can be beat by anybody. It's a week-to-week league. Just because you dominated somebody the week before, don't mean that you're not susceptible to get beat the following week. Or just because you have a common opponent that beat somebody, and you're like, oh, well, that team ain't that good. The Bills beat that team by however many points. I mean, that same team that got beat won't beat you. They're 6-2 with 2 of their losses to division opponents. They're 0-2 in the division right now. The Bills are 1 loss to the Dolphins and 1 loss to the Jets, who are both a half game back of first place. And the third and final thing I took away from that game is, even though he is an elite talent, and I gave him credit for the turnaround, he is the second best quarterback in the league. I feel like, in my opinion, behind Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen will still sometimes do Josh Allen-ly things, like he did against the Packers last week, like he did against the Jets, 2 weeks ago, and like he did against the Jets this past week. And we all remember, I'm going to be quick because I know we're pressed for time. If you all remember Josh Allen's first playoff game, and after his second year, they played the Texans. That man threw a crossbody pass to a fullback in double cover, jump ball to a fullback in double coverage. Then they went to overtime. He ran for a first down. And he threw a lateral, and like he would still do some of that crazy Josh Allen-y stuff. Like you said, he saw Sauce Gardner sitting there. It didn't make any sense to make that pass, and he did it anyway. So that's one thing I took away from that game is, man, he still got a little Josh Allen left on. He still got a little